Hey everybody, how are you? It's Adam Ratliff at Adam So Fun. And I hope everyone is staying safe and we're all hunkered down because of the corona. But I decided, hey, there's not a better time to make a loading video for you all. But Ben reminded me that I had this cool, oh, I can't remember. It's Elizabeth Hartman llamas, but I can't remember the actual design name. But I had this cool llama quilt, and so I'm gonna get this out of the way because I don't need the top yet. So I'm gonna teach you the way I load a quilt, and I'm gonna call it the burrito method because at one point we're gonna make the burrito. There's 100 ways to do everything. This is just the way I like to do it. This is the way I do it. So without further ado, here's my backing. Now I have to tell you, I pieced this backing just for you all because I don't have a wide back currently. I love a wide back because anything that makes my life easier, it just makes my life easier. So if I use a wide back as much as I can, or as often as I can, because I don't have to piece. So I'm gonna take my backing. I've already found the center at my top and my bottom. I am using the selvages because it makes it a little bit easier. And I'm going to load my belly bar first. So this one that your belly's going to hit. So I take my backing and I throw it all over my bars. I want gravity and I want this back bar to do the job for me. While I roll up, it's going to keep everything nice and taut. So I fling it all over. There's my nice seam. You'll notice that I have rolled up a little bit because I want my leader around this bar. It doesn't have to be all the way rolled up, but I do want it rolled up a little bit because I want the tension that leader is going to give as everything's rolling around it. So there's that. Now here's an important part. I'm going to take my backing, come between my two bars, and I call this making the table. Because most of us usually hold the leader and hold the back and pin across and pin across. Well, I have a really deep or a really wide throat. I have the 26, the Infinity 26. So because it's that deep, if I'm loading a king quilt and I tend to make pretty big things, my arms get tired. If you have to do it by holding, doing on the back bar, then doing it on the front bar, and then doing on for your top, like you just get tired. So this is what I came up with. Don't ask me how. But I've been between the two bars. Now I'm going to take my backing and wrap it back over. And this is what I call the table. Because now I have this nice straight edge. I'm gonna unlock my ratchet, pull out some leader of my belly bar. And now since I have a nice straight edge there, I can reach or pull my leader right around, line them up. And since I've made that table, everything sits right here really nice for me. I'm gonna grab my pins. Now don't forget about your magnetic pin cushion. I love these things. They sit on your bars pretty nice. If you start to roll that bar, these turn into grenades. And when it hits the ground, it's going to be a grenade of pins. They're going to go everywhere. So just be careful. But see how I have this nice flat surface? I can take my first pin. All right, so here's my center mark. I put my first pin in, and then I always take this out because I will forget. Because I've made my table, I can kind of just sprinkle some pins here because it will hold it. And when you're pinning, you want to take a nice big bite. Give yourself some room. I like it like about a ½ inch. I'm gonna pin in, pop out, and that's close for me. So I'm not gonna take that out because it's not gonna hurt anything. But you just don't. This is what I like. Like 1 to 2 fingers, perfect. Pop in another one. You can see I'm taking a nice big bite out of that. And I also want to stay consistent how far away from the edge I am. I tend to usually run about 1/8 to 1/4 inch. But you don't have to overload this with pins. You know, take a nice big bite, give yourself some space. When I get to the end, I do a little weave, and I will weave them in and out. But you know, everybody does it a little different. I tend to always start in the center and move to my left, and then go back and do the rest. However you do it, if you are like, oh, I know how to pin, I don't need you to tell me how, great. Keep doing it that way, because you don't need to do everything the way I do it. I'm just showing you the way I do it. And it might be a different way, you know, it might be something to try, but by no means am I saying this is the best way. Because again, there's so many different ways to do things. And then I will show you. I also, don't ask me why, but I point my ending pins out. I know I do it so I don't poke myself. I know a lot of people who will twist them and put them in this way. And when I'm teaching and people load the quilts that way, if I'm over there and I smooth stuff out, I always poke myself because I'm not used to that. But I'm going to do the other side really quick, and we will see you back here. My backing is pinned on. Now, I'm going to go and I'm going to flip down my ratchet. Now, I never turn my, my bars. I never roll my bars if my ratchets aren't down. I want to make sure I can hear the click. Because if I can hear the click, I know that I'm turning the bar the right way, and I'm not going to roll it backwards or roll it wrong. Let's see, I make sure the leader is rolling on right. And I'm going to roll, roll, roll. This will fall down because I brought that between the two bars. And now you can see my backing. And this is, I usually run back around to the back. I will pull this taut and make sure that it's nice and straight. Because now, when I roll my bar, you'll see that this is going to stay nice and taut. There is, I'll pop that ratchet down on that back bar, but you'll see that it keeps it nice and taut as I roll around, and it actually will help keep everything straight as it gets pulled. Now I do have a second hand wheel here, so I can use that. Get this leader out of my way, and I watch it. If it looks like it's starting to go a little crooked, or that it's a little bit baggy, I'll come in and I'll kind of ease that stuff out. But for the most part, I don't ever have to do that when I load with this method, because this keeps it nice and taut the whole time. Let's see. I'm going to crank up some more. And I'm going to pull this towards me until there's about a foot hanging over that back bar. Roll that out of the way. This thing gets in the way. You can pop this bar, your top bar, up into the pole cradles. I don't, because it's just one more piece of tension or friction that the backing has to roll past. So I like it, but that's just me. Let's see. I have a little bit more. There's my seam. And I should be almost there. And we'll do one more click. So now my belly bar is loaded. And now I'm going to load my top, or load my back bar. So I'm going to pin from the back. Again, I have the deeper machine, and to hold a big quilt up and pin across, it just, I was leaning over, even with the super leader that brought my leader to about here, because it's 27 inches. And I suggest everybody get a super leader for that back bar, because on the Amara or the studio frame, because I have the gallery frame, on the studio frame, it brings the leader almost here. I know some of our educators will sit down while they're loading that and just pin across and just slide their chair to the left and the right. This is just so deep that I found pinning from the back was a better option for me. It didn't hurt my back. There's less leaning over. So I'm going to go to the back, and I'm going to teach you how to make the burrito, which is why this is the burrito method. I will see you in a minute when I'm in the back. So, all right, so this is what I call the burrito method. So first thing first, I'm going to let up my ratchet because I'm going to take my leader, and we have our back bar. And right here, this bar that just sits there and does nothing, that's the idler bar. And we are going to wrap the bars up in the leader. So we're going to pretend the leader is our tortilla. And I'm going to pull it out. I don't want to knock my one over. So I'm going to pull out my tortilla. The bars, back bar, beans, idler bar, cheese. So we're going to wrap the tortilla around the beans and cheese and come all the way around. So we have the leader going around towards the front, all the way around and back. And this is where that super leader comes in very handy. When I'm doing this not on video, I can get this done. This top will lay here and I will wrap the whole thing, and that won't even get in my way because I'm so used to doing this. Because I can start here, wrap, and just kind of do that. Make sure things are pulled taut. This side. And what this is doing is, let me pull this tight really quick. Make sure my leader's pulled tight. And I will fold this back so you can see. What this is now doing is I have the edge of that leader hanging right in front of my face. So when I slide this down, and I eyeballed that perfect, these are both hanging at the same level. So now, because I have that straight edge, I can pin and pin across to my left and come back and pin across to my right. And now everything's pinned and I just have to roll things up to where I want them. So I'm going to pin this up really quick, and then I will meet you back in the front. All right, so I'm going to roll this up. Again, you'll see the tension. It rolls up nice and straight. This is all going to flop down. And then that's when I come back and I roll the back. And then I'm going to, I like my back to start about right there. A few inches. I want to make sure that I can reach comfortably to it if I need to do anything. And make sure this is nice and pulled. It's a little loosey-goosey. Now, right here, this orange pin, I usually pop this coming back here so that I know that's my center. I'm going to take it out because you can see there's a little bit of a wave to what's going on. Well, I added this hand wheel, this extra hand wheel. So I have one on my back bar and one on my belly bar. I'm going to lock both of them, and I'm going to roll this back and forth a few times, keeping this guy out of the way. Let's see. That's good. So now I'm going to roll back. Make sure that's up. Pop this one down. So by rolling this back and forth, this is going to kind of distribute some of that unevenness that I saw. So now I'm going to roll it back. So let's see. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold this. It's not really going to do anything, but let's see. This is the last time I'm going to roll this up. So I'm going to make sure this is rolling nice and straight, that there's no folds, that my leaders look good. This side looks good. This side looks terrible, but I don't even think you can see it, but I'll fix it anyway. See how you have to kind of do that? Or, ooh, I felt something. If you are smoothing this out and you're, maybe you quilt with friends, you guys have quilt time, one person load the quilt, because both of you will smooth that out at a different tensions, and it will end up not rolling up straight. So quick tip there. So see the difference? It was a little saggy on the sides. It didn't look quite as happy as it does now. And just rolling that back up and back a few times really made it, or adjusted some of those tensions. You see Duchess coming around. She's my baby. All right, so we have this, our backing loaded. I'm gonna unclick it a few times because it doesn't have to be super tight yet. So now we're gonna load the top. Like I did on the backing, I found my center marks at the top and the bottom. And here's my little bottom pin. Just like I did with the backing, I'm gonna throw this all the way over. I want it to hang all the way over off the back of my frame. I don't want it to sit on my table. I want it to hang all the way over. Watch your highlights. If you don't have highlights, holy, they are so bright and such a great addition. I had really great lighting in my last house, in my sewing studio, and I put these up and I just started laughing. I had to call Ben and say, Ben, come look at this. And then I had him flip them on. They are so bright. And what I like is that they're freestanding. So I have about 2 inches on that side. I might pull this over just a little bit. And so I've thrown this over. I'm going to fold this back on itself. This time we're going to use the backing that's already loaded as our table. I'll unlock this ratchet because now I'm going to use my top bar. Pull out my leader. And again, I got fuzzies everywhere. Now I can lay my leader right on top of my top. There's a flat surface. So I have a table. I'm not having to hold anything up in my hands. Grab my pins. And I usually just do the sprinkle because then I don't have to reach back for them a lot. And do like I just did and pin across. Starting in the center. Lock my ratchet because I want to hear the click. Make sure this is all flowing nice and taut. And now I'm going to roll it. I do not have a hand wheel. You can only have one hand wheel on the front 2 bars. And mine's on the backing because the backing is usually a bit bigger. Pop this out. Because again, I want the gravity and the bars and the leaders to do all my work. I want a little bit of tension when this gets here. And this is where I can crank a little bit. Make sure things are rolling right. And this is also because if you're like me, you have a bunch of fuzzies everywhere. This is when I kind of pop fuzzies off. Especially when I throw the stuff on the ground to measure my quilts. Because I always measure my quilts before I put them on. Because I want those measurements for when I'm doing, when I set up my edge to edge. You'll notice I'm not fussing a lot with this. If it looks like it's rolling straight, I'm not gonna try to put pressure and make it tight. Like I can do that while I'm working on it. I don't want it super tight yet. Now, if it's going kind of crazy, getting a little wonky, I might mess with it here, but you know what? It's long arm quilting. As long as you're loving it, that's all that matters. I'm a big fan of doing it whatever way makes you happy. My joke is that the only edge on my quilt that it's straight is the one that I start with because I make a plumb line and make that line straight. But other than that, most quilts don't start out straight. So it's not, like, it is what it is. I usually roll up to about right there when it falls over. I'm going to roll it a few more clicks. But I want to make sure I have enough, like enough of a little extra for when I do my basting line at the beginning. So now I'm going to take it and I accordion fold this right on top. I'm doing a balancing act. I want this right on top of my top bar. Because now I'm going to pop this top bar out, take up my ratchet, and it sits right on top of my pole cradles. They're a little plastic cradle on the side. If you have an older machine, I think these came out maybe 3 years ago, you can add them, 20 bucks at the most. I think they're 10. I'm not 100% sure. But I pop that up onto my pole cradle because now I don't have to worry about stuffing my batting between these bars. Make sure that's nice and smooth. I have my batting and I folded it and folded it. So I know that this is the center and I know my batting is almost the same size as my backing. I think it's actually a little bit bigger, but we'll find that out in a minute. So let's see. Pull it down a little bit. And I always fold it so I can just get here, unfold it. So I'm gonna have a few extra inches on this side, so I'm gonna actually pull it down over here. So about 1 inch extra over there. That will work. Make sure this is nice and smooth. Take off my fuzzies. And now this, I can fold back. And again, I'm gonna take this and kind of accordion fold it and have it accordion fold on itself. And then I plop it right down into my Handi hammock so it stays off of the ground. Make sure this is smooth. Smooth it one more time. My top bar goes back into its grooves. And now my quilt is loaded and ready for basting. So that is how I load my quilts with the burrito method. I hope you learned something. Feel free to hit me up if you have any questions. AdamSoFun.com, AdamSoFun on Instagram and Facebook. I am always around to help you with anything you might need. I just want everyone to love long arming as much as I do. So I hope you're all having a great day. Cheers, and we'll see you next time. Bye.